Good evening. We're starting our session. And today we will speak about bikes, about bike parkings, and the largest parking lot in the world. That's why we invited special expert, the person who is able to tell us best of all about that. It's Joost Ector. So his company got very prestigious prize this year, and it's amazing that this is the first bike parking which was gotten to this prize awards. And you see, bike parking lots are becoming more and more popular, and so that's why it will be rather interesting for us to speak about that. So I'm giving him a floor.
Thank you. You hopefully don't mind if I stand up. Thank you very much for inviting me to talk about this project, which is a very remarkable project also for us. And I think I have a lot to tell. 15 minutes is far too short. I will try not to make it any longer. So the problem is very clear, I think. We have increasing urbanization. We have to be anywhere, so mobility is expanding rapidly all the time. And the effects are pollution. Pollution, bad air quality, noise pollution, congestion. This needs to end. This needs to be solved. And of course, if you look at this chart, you can see that cars are really the problem. CO2 emissions are by far the highest in gasoline cars. And apart from the effects that I just named, CO2, carbon dioxide or global warming is a worldwide problem. We need to tackle it. For us in the Netherlands, in our Dutch perspective, this sustainability issue has the highest priority, being a country of which a lot of the land is below sea level. So what you see here is cars on the left-hand side compared to public transport, bicycles and pedestrians on the right-hand side. Of course, public transport is not a solution in itself. The CO2 emissions of buses are still very great. So we try to combine a railway mobility, trams, metros, trains, with bicycle mobility to cover the larger distances in the Netherlands. And we are very successful at it. And that's why we needed a very large bicycle parking facility right next to the biggest railway station in the Netherlands, which is in Utrecht. But when you come to think of it, the benefits of cycling are much, much greater than just solving the problems that come with pollution. It gives you an opportunity to totally rethink the city. More space for green, more attractive streets, less noisy, more space for other forms of new infill of public space. And probably you've never considered this, but the city center of Amsterdam, for 50%, the space in the city center is used by cars. It's a complete waste of space also. So for the last 2 years I've been advocating, I've been a sort of an ambassador for cycling cities. This was never the plan. Our company was focusing before on innovation districts, knowledge landscapes as we call them. We designed the playgrounds for creative and knowledge communities to flourish. And what attracted us in this assignment in the first place was the opportunity to make a new station square for Utrecht station. So a new urban forum for new kinds of connections, new kinds of connectivity. And we only later found out, I think this is funny, that what we were working on was actually the biggest bicycle parking garage in the world. We didn't know before. So this combination of knowledge landscapes driven through a fascination for innovation and progress in general, and the challenge of inventing a bicycle parking garage that big, that really, really triggered us. So a quick look in a comparison of data provided by Deloitte consultancy group of Moscow and Amsterdam. You see big differences. Public transport being very big in Moscow, about the same. This is a percentage of the number of journeys taken. Private car use about the same, but look at what happens in the Netherlands in walking, pedestrians and bicycles. It's a huge difference. And of course, I think we have a long way to go to get our public transport system up to the level of yours. But on the other hand, I think you have very low hanging fruit in promoting pedestrian traffic and bicycles. Of course, the Dutch have a sort of a head start. This may surprise you, but the average Dutch citizen owns 1.3 bicycles. That is including the elderly and the infants. So I think you may say that every second Dutch citizen owns 2 bicycles. So bicycle ownership in the Netherlands is very big, and we are followed by Denmark with only 0.8. China may surprise you, but it's only 0.4. And I did my best to try and get some data on the Russian situation, but it was just simply not to be found. So why is that? Well, it's very simple. For us, Dutch cycling is a way of life. We cycle from right after we learn to walk until very high age, and we do not just do it as a sport or as a play. We do it in everyday situations. So on the left, a picture of Amsterdam on just a regular day. On the right, a picture of our Prime Minister going to work, all dressed up in his business suit on his bicycle. So just to sum it up, the advantages of the cycling city are really very, very big. So less pollution, less carbon dioxide, less noise, more space for all kinds of purposes, more connection. There's no better way to experience a city and to really grasp what's going on than on a bicycle. And of course, more well-being and health, exercise, also mental health, very much stimulated by using a bicycle. So I think the real task for cities today and tomorrow is to create a bicycle culture, to really integrate this sense of freedom of being able to go everywhere on a bike into the city. And it's not going to be easy. Will cities with no cycling culture at all be able to change overnight? I don't think so. But there are some things that you can do to create this in the future. I've put up a number here. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but to promote cycling as a lifestyle, especially for younger generations, is something that we still do in the Netherlands. For people who are not originally Dutch, we still need to promote it. So private bicycle ownership, shared bicycle programs, these are things that you can actively, as a government, stimulate. We had for a very long time a tax regulation giving you tax benefits when you would use a bicycle for your everyday commuting. And of course, you need to invest in excellent cycling infrastructure. So not only bike lanes, also parking facilities to go from home to a transport hub on your bicycle, being able to store it there and using it to get home in the evening. So parking facilities integrated in multimodal hubs. And I would encourage every planner from today onward to include this idea of bicycle mobility in every project that comes along. So now about the project, just briefly. The biggest bicycle parking in the world. I should have told you already that it contains 12,500 bicycle spaces. Only half of it has been open now for a little over a year, and from day one it was completely sold out or completely in use. Phase 2 will be opened this August, and then it's completely finished, except for the square on top of it. So Utrecht, a very old city, right in the heart of the Netherlands, dating back to Roman times. Trajectum was it called originally, and this was what it looked like at the end of the Middle Ages, with a wall and a moat going around, and nothing really changed very dramatically since then until the mid of the 19th century, when railways were, of course, implemented in all of the country. So still around 1930s, there was a very romantic, historic city center looking very pretty and attractive. Then, of course, as the railway network expanded, things changed, and this is the post-war railway station that we had, but it was still not large enough. So then came the biggest disaster that happened to Utrecht, not the Second World War in terms of urban planning, of course, but the modernist urban planners got together and thought of a very radical solution, and they proposed mega structures. And what we ended up was a very, very, very big chunk of buildings, all glued together with pedestrian bridges, the biggest railway station in the country, the biggest trade fair complex in the country, and the biggest shopping and office complex in the country. And this, of course, was a nightmare, breaking with the human scale of the city and resulting in these types of spaces underneath, because everything was tied together on a first floor level. So street level was totally abandoned, unsafe, unpleasant, and as you can see in these pictures, also crowded with bicycles everywhere. Every available spot there were bicycles. And when we started in our project, and the whole area had to be closed for the construction to be begun, it became apparent that there were so incredibly many bicycles. This is right next to our project when we were constructing it, and you can just see that, well, a solution was badly needed. So then, luckily, the Utrecht government got their act together and decided to embark on a really, really big project. The whole of the environment of the central station was completely redeveloped. You see the station in the center. You see dark gray buildings that were already existing, light gray buildings, including the station, the railway terminal, newly constructed. And our part of the project was at the right-hand side of the railway terminal, all the dark blue space. And what we proposed was very simple. We said we still want a stationsstraat, so a station street, but we're going to redesign it completely. So no cars anymore, just pedestrians and bicycles. And we made a street that gently slopes to the level of the railway station and the shopping mall, then goes down again really gently on the other side, which would provide a very large space underneath this raised square to be used for bicycle storage. So this is a top view. All the colored parts is what we worked on with the square in the middle. And also we made all the requirements, all the urban requirements for the new real estate developments on either side. So this is what our renders looked like. And I still can't show you this picture in reality because we're still constructing it. So street level is not yet fully completed. But you can already get an impression here of what the street will look like. It's just very clean, very still, very calm. Shops on either sides, pedestrians and cyclists heading for the entrance of the bicycle parking right in the middle. This is the other side. So new developments on either side, lots of green, very funny. In order to make this gently sloping movement, we also designed trees on staircases. And well, this, of course, this world record setting bicycle garage got a lot of media attention. But if you ever want to make it to the newspaper in a very simple way, just put a tree on a staircase. Lower level, only kiss and ride here and taxis. Of course, those you still need in a transport hub. And on the upper level, this wonderful new place, this wonderful new square that Utrecht missed so dearly for decades, covered by a very large canopy as a compensation for the owner of the shopping mall, so people would still be able to cross the square dry when it rains and go and buy some stuff. So this is how the garage is integrated in the whole structure. Basically, there's 3 floors of it. The middle floor connecting to street level, 1 real basement floor that is, integrated on either side with existing structures and new structures, and the canopy supported by columns piercing through the whole garage. And of course I can only show you the final result here, but this was a very, very intense design process, because we had to come up with a solution that would fit right in between all those existing buildings. It also had to be constructed in different phases, and the railway terminal of course had to continuously be operational. So this is only the last of numerous layouts that we proposed and tested with 3 things in mind. It needed to be convenient to store your bike here. It needed to be fast from entering the garage on your bike until arriving at the railway terminal. There should only be 4 minutes between those 2 points. And the third one, of course, safety. So this bicycle garage allows you to cycle all the way up to a free available spot, then reach one of the 3 staircases, here visible as blue columns, transport you up to the square level and then enter the railway terminal. So this is what one of those floors look like. Very easy to use. Bicycles stacked in 2 layers, electronic indicators on the sides so that you're easily able to see where there's free spaces available without having to get off your bike. So all very convenient. And to make this happen, we built one of the most complex building information models we had ever created of the adjacent buildings and of our own project. And it was very necessary to fit it all in neatly. And as you can understand, we had to deal with an enormous amount of different stakeholders. And this was really more than the layout or the beauty of it or whatever. The process here was really the big challenge in the whole project. And of course we needed to come up with a smart phasing scheme so that everything could be used, everything could stay in use while constructing. So, and this is what the result of phase 1 looks like now. Open for a little over a year. It's really amazing. We've been involved in this project for so long, and we've tried to imagine it for so long now that I only realized how special it was when people started talking to me. Well, you can. This is a 3-story building that you can cycle through all the way, and really it does feel very interesting. And of course, I set these 3 convenience, speed, safety as the 3 requirements. Of course, we had our own agenda. We wanted this to be a very special architectural experience as well, because I think that in order for a project as this one, like this one, to succeed, it has to be something extra. We didn't want it to be normal infrastructure. If it had looked like a car parking garage, it would have failed. I'm very much convinced about that. So that we managed to get with this project on the cover of the Dutch yearbook of architecture was for me a victory in a way. And we did a lot to achieve that, I have to say. So we created double height, sometimes even triple height spaces so that you would have this idea of height. And we made connections for daylight to enter, for possibilities to look into the next door bus station. And I thought of Moscow a few years ago when the Tour de France started in Utrecht. And on their website they said, this is like la cathédrale pour la bicyclette. And honestly, I had to think of the Moscow metro, which has this palatial quality. So infrastructure which rises above itself is really the new standard, I think. So here again, a triple height space with one of the canopy columns piercing through the double height storage racks for the bicycles. And on the left here you can see it now, a direct connection to a tunnel that goes under the railway platforms. Of course, we take a lot of care about of acoustics and daylight too. So there's a very sophisticated daylight system with all kinds of sensors in it to prevent excessive energy use. And the wood that you see on the wall has a basic function to regulate sound quality. So it is really somewhere between inside and outside, not infrastructure at all, but yeah, I like to think real architecture. So what's so funny about it is when you move through it, you can see people move on all kinds of levels. There's always movement around, and it's very, very pleasant. It's very inspiring. I go there a lot. So this is where you get off when you can see it on the side. That's the electronic indicator. It's not lit here now, but. So when you find your free spot, you just park your bicycle there. You head for one of these staircases. You can't see it here, but it's a daylight well, so it's covered with glass and has a lot of daylight coming down to the lowest level. And you go up and you encounter this great canopy that has become a new icon for the city. It has Utrecht has a very beautiful and very high old church tower, but this one is becoming a symbol of the new Utrecht. And then, yeah, we still have to finish the surface of the square, but in the left corner you see the railway station, and from the other side you see the entrance of the shopping mall. So this is how we do it in the Netherlands, and I would really like to encourage you to visit our project, to take away what is useful to you, and to see if we can create the cycling cities of tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Just one more question on this. So people lock the bikes themselves with their own lockers, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. A Dutch cyclist has his own lock with him all the time. Yeah.
And how do you see the bike share and car sharing, especially bike share, are changing the landscape of the cycling in Netherlands, for example? It looks like most of these bicycles stay there for almost a day or half of the day. Do you see this trend of changing people parking the bikes or using it for 2, 3, 4 times a day?
Yeah, well, I should have told you, but there's also a large part of the garage is also meant for bike sharing. Mm-hmm. Our public transport company provides that service as well. But yeah, there are numerous people who have 2 bikes. Take one from home to the nearest railway station, then go to Utrecht. Take their bike from this garage, go to work, and reverse order at night. So, but I think the balance between that will change because, like I said, in the Netherlands, private bike ownership is very big, but more and more people start using bikes, shared bikes as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your presentation, and we conclude the session.